What's up everybody? My name is Michael Inman, and in today's video we're going to be discussing the film Major Payne, and topics such as why one of the punishments he uses in the film definitely would have, if not gotten him fired, would have gotten him heavily reprimanded, at least by the current administration. We'll discuss more soon, but let's start with a recap. So the film Major Payne focuses on, you would have guessed it, Major Payne, in how he is a service member who at first leaves the United States Marines, but after having a rough time in the civilian world, he does join the United States Marines a second time through kind of a ultimatum. The way he's able to rejoin the Marines is through taking a job he normally would not have. His role is to be the commandant at a private school which has pretty much a junior ROTC program. And so throughout the film you see him working with this band of mischievous children who also are just needing a little bit of guidance and a little bit of, discipline to get them into shape to eventually compete in the JROTC competition, and as you would have guessed, win that competition at the end of the movie. Let's talk about some of the notes I wrote down while watching this film, and let's just mention it from the start. This film's pretty funny. So I'm pretty sure you don't need to be in the military to enjoy the humor and the antics of this film. But as anyone who's gone through boot camp, maybe as someone who's going to boot camp, but definitely someone who's gone to any boot camp, you will definitely appreciate some of the, outlandish things that take place during the trying to get these children in order prior to the competition. The first thing I wrote down is the topic of having a change in job requirements. So though there's very big picture, when the United States or any nation is not in large scale war as compared to times which it is in war or is ramping up to war, as one would expect, there are different manning requirements. And I don't just mean how many people you need or what your personnel requirements are, but also how they are leveraged or employed would probably change depending on if we're fighting a war and or if it's peacetime. Something that is touched upon at the beginning of this film is that the United States is not at war, or not as aggressively in a war state as it has been in the past. And so the branch of note in this film is the United States Marines. They are changing what they need from their people. And unfortunately, if you are not able to excel in some of the new requirements on your plate as a person in the United States Marine, the organization may or may not respectfully ask you to walk away. The easiest example of, in wartime, you need to be able to lead troops into battle. In peacetime, you need to be able to man training pipelines and understand how can you manage a person or a group of people's careers over, let's say, a 20-year period in regards to new skills, keeping them satisfied, job satisfaction. There are different things that an organization will be really focused on depending upon if it's wartime, ramp up time, or peacetime. Next, I just touched on this, but the concept of up or out, that is something that is historically tied to the military on how personnel decide, or it is decided for them if they are staying in the military for the next chunk of years or next contract. The way up or out works is you only have so many chances to be selected for the next rank. So to make it even simpler, let's say you are an E5, and up or out is something that is currently being implemented. A very strict up or out policy might be, okay, out of all of the E5s in the, let's say, Coast Guard, you all will get 3 chances. So that's in 3 consecutive years, 3 chances to make E6. Any of you who do not get selected after 3 different boards or processes to try to select who of the E5s will become E6s, if you are not selected 3 times in a row, you will be leaving the military. You ain't gotta go home, but you ain't staying here. That kind of thing. Next, this film, at least for a short portion in the beginning of the film, does kind of lean into some of the difficulty of leaving military life in a military career and integrating into civilian life. Often it's attributed to a loss of purpose, a loss of structure, and a lack of a really fully vetted plan, a plan that aligns with your strengths and passions prior to separating. And so through a montage, we see how it was very difficult for Major Payne to adjust to being a civilian after a long career in the military. And so he, as some people in today's world actually do this, which is kind of cool that this opportunity exists, he chose to go back into the military. And that provided him that purpose, and the military was able to say, hey, if you're gonna come back, here's something we need from you. What was that one thing? That one thing was, hey, there's a job that has been very hard to fill, and usually in the military when something is hard to fill, it means we have asked various people at the right rank to take this job, and they have literally said, either if you give me that job, I am separating, or we tried to force them to go there and they outright said, just separate me now. Next little quote I wrote from the film, which now that he is the commandant and has met the youngins that he has to get in line through the JROTC program, now it's when it starts getting just funny and humorous. So the first quote I wrote was, "Are you eyeballing me?" That is very in line with some of the things you're gonna hear for the first few weeks of boot camp. So just prep yourself for very confrontational moments in which you are being forced to show deference. Don't look in my eyes. And definitely don't look at me with no crazy side eyes. Next little thing I thought was funny was that in this film, they called jumping jacks a side straddle hop. And ever since joining the military, I have never understood why we call jumping jacks side straddle hops. But throughout all of boot camp, they're like, side straddle hop. And you just start doing jumping jacks. Now to address that thing I discussed a little bit earlier regarding a punishment that probably would have got Major Payne entirely fired. So at some point, I'm sure the youngins are trying to get back at Major Payne for all the pain he's causing through physical fitness, and or they just don't like having someone who's causing them to learn discipline and who is punishing them when they do not, conform, right? So they create all these plans to try to get him to quit or get him fired. He figures out one of the plans, and as a punishment for their conniving activities, he makes them all dress up in dresses and pretty much do PT in front of all of their schoolmates at this private school. And so one, it was hilarious, but two, I had to note that that is just not an acceptable punishment in the modern situation, but also even more poignantly, the current administration would not have it one bit. That would not work. So there would have been some very tough words for Major Payne, if not just an outright removal from the position due to his choice in how to reprimand his unit. The next thing I wrote was the topic of coddling versus hardening. So a quote from the film was, "Ma'am, when I was 6, I had a full-time job." And so he says this to one of the main characters from the film, also the love interest, who is saying maybe you should take it easier on these youngins. And he's pretty much pushing back, saying, when I was young, I had to do things like this and I was much tougher. So it's that tension that you've seen in this film and other films, etc., of where is the balance between not coddling but also not being overly aggressive in trying to harden the troops. Later in the film, he does wear choker whites on a date, I'm pretty sure, and they look so fly. So I'm just glad that they were included in this film. Before our last topic, I do want to say, if you're enjoying this film, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button and turning the notification bell on so you know when I upload brand new videos, and also hit the like button if you're liking the film. And finally, you can catch me on Instagram at Michael Inman _. And now for the final thing from Major Payne. That is that for the final JROTC drill competition at the end of the film, which as mentioned they do win, I just want to note that they are doing legitimate military drill movements. So it's not fake. When you're actually watching the movement and listening to the commands, left face, right face, about face, all of those things are baked into the scene. And so I appreciated that they're real drill movements, but with a lot of, how do we want to say this? Stylish embellishments on top. Because it is Hollywood. So it's a sprinkle of dance on top of the drill movements, but I'm not upset. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until next time, bye everyone.